Good morning. Today is Friday, August 15th, 2025. The mitzvos of the Torah, the commandments of God given to the Torah, apply to all Jews at all times, in all places. We state this clearly in both the first paragraph of the Shema that we read in last week's Torah portion, Veschanan, and in the second passage of the Shema that we read in this week's portion of Akev, that the words of the Torah, we should study and apply them b'shivtecha b'veisecha, when we're sitting in our homes, u'v'lechtecha v'derech, and we were traveling along the way, b'shachbecha, when it's time to go to sleep, uvkumecha, and when we get up. Everywhere, all times, the mitzvos of God apply to us. Now, of course, there are certain mitzvos that only apply to certain people. Mitzvos that apply just to a Kohen, for example, or a Levi. Mitzvos that apply just to women or just to men. And there is also a category of mitzvos called mitzvos hatluyos ba'aretz. Mitzvos, commandments, that are connected to the land of Israel. So they are only relevant in the land of Israel. For example, the agricultural laws only apply in the land of Israel. And just by the way, this is something to keep in mind, because a lot of tourists to Israel, visitors to Israel, and at home, of course, they keep kosher, but they come to Israel and they assume, well, yes, I understand the restaurants have to be kosher and food products have to be kosher, but fruits and vegetables at home in Montreal, I can buy fruits and vegetables anywhere. But in Israel, that's not true. Because in Israel, there are agricultural laws of separating truma and meiser, the tithing. And so fruits and vegetables, raw fruits and vegetables require rabbinic supervision in order for them to be kosher in Israel. And that's because those laws apply there. And of course, the laws that relate to the Beit HaMikdash, the Holy Temple, the laws that relate to karbanos, the sacrifices, all of that is only in Israel. But otherwise, all the other mitzvos, keeping kosher, keeping Shabbos, prayer, most of the mitzvos apply to every Jew everywhere. Rabbi Avraham Kook was the first chief rabbi of Israel. And he points out a detail of Jewish law, an anomaly, that is profound, and it's relevant to every one of us. And it concerns the mitzvah of Mezuzah, to put a Mezuzah on the doorway of each of the doors of our home. Also, in this week's Torah portion, the Parsha of Akev. So, obviously, the mitzvah Mezuzah applies everywhere we live. It's not connected to Israel. It's something we put on the doorway. And the mitzvah of Mezuzah is foreshadowed in the narrative in Shmos, the Exodus, where God tells the Jewish people to put a sign on the doorpost to identify that this home is a Jewish home, as distinct from the Egyptian homes. And that foreshadows that this mitzvah of Mezuzah has an aspect of proclaiming our Jewish identity. And of course, that applies everywhere in the world. Later, in our Torah portion, it's commanded in the Torah, just as it was in last week's Torah portion in Veschanan, Uchsavtem al mezuzos beisecha v'yisharecha. You should write and place the Mezuzah scroll on the doorway of all the doorways of your home. And the context of that mitzvah is to always be aware, especially at home in private, of God's presence and our obligation to serve God at all times, even in private. We discussed this earlier this week. And Beisecha, your home, is everywhere, wherever you live. It's not connected to Israel. Yet there is a detail of Jewish law that uniquely connects this mitzvah to the land of Israel. And it goes like this. In Israel, when you move into a home, you must put a mezuzah on every doorway right away, as soon as you move in, the first day that you're living there. And that is whether you bought the home or you rent. Even though there's a dispute in the Talmud whether renting is considered ownership in a situation where I rent something from you. Am I considered the owner, or is the original owner considered the owner? That's a dispute in the Talmud. However, mezuzah doesn't depend on ownership. It depends on where you live. And so there's no difference between an owner of a home and a renter of a home. If you live there, you have to put a mezuzah on every doorway. And you have to do that the first day that you're living there. That's in Israel. Outside of Israel, the rule is different. Outside of Israel, if you buy a home, then you have to put a mezuzah right away on the first day that you're living there. But if you rent a home, then you only put a mezuzah on the doorways at the end of 30 days of living there. Why is renting different outside of Israel than inside of Israel? So Rav Kook explains that in Israel, even if you rent a home, you are fulfilling the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, settling in the land of Israel. That is a mitzvah to settle and to live in the land of Israel. And it's a mitzvah, and therefore you want to be there. And as soon as you move in, you're connected to Israel in a spiritual and existential manner, in addition to the physical, geographical manner. And so you need a mezuzah right away. It's where you live. But outside of Israel, for every Jew, if you rent, you're just a traveler. Maybe you'll leave and go somewhere else. If you bought a home, so it's clear that you plan to stay there, and as soon as you move in, you have to put up a mezuzah right away. But if you're renting, who says you're going to stay? Maybe you'll leave, maybe you'll move. And by the way, any place that you stay less than 30 days does not require a mezuzah. So for example, if you go to a hotel and you're staying less than 30 days, there's no requirement to have a mezuzah on the door. If you go to the hospital, and hopefully you're going for less than 30 days, there's no obligation to put a mezuzah there. Only after 30 days pass and the renter is still there after 30 days, it is evident that this renter plans to stay there, and then there's an obligation to put up the mezuzah. And the reason for the difference is because even if we live outside of Israel, the truth is we belong in Israel. wherever we are outside of Israel, it's not really our place. Okay, if we've rented for 30 days, that shows we're planning to stay there for a while and it requires a mezuzah. But before 30 days, we're just traveling. We don't put up a mezuzah. Rav Kook explains it with these words. Our sages explain that a Jew who is born in Israel, as well as one who looks forward to being in Israel, are both considered to be children of Zion, children of Israel. The Talmud says, Echad hanolad ba, whether one is born in Israel, ve'echad hametzapi l'roso, or one who is looking forward, who yearns to live in Israel. Both of them are called a child of Israel. Eli Wiesel wrote, one doesn't go to Jerusalem, one returns to it. Wherever we are in the world, each time we see the mezuzah on the doorpost, we should be reminded of God's presence and our commitment to God's laws and values, even in private. And when we see a mezuzah wherever we are, we should also be reminded through this detail of law, reminded of our innate and existential connection to Israel, wherever we are. My friends, I wish you a great day and a beautiful Shabbos, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.